Greetings and welcome to Air Force Detachment 772, home of the Flying Bucks. My name is Captain Jason Faulk, but on behalf of our deck commander, Lieutenant Colonel Billy Rothwell, wanted to welcome each and every one of you who have decided to listen today to our spring 2024 semester welcome briefing and our mandatory briefings. Here's a brief intro visually so you can see all of our cadre who help support our 53 cadets that are assigned to Det 772. Our commander, who manages and oversees and has oversight over all operations and training. Myself, who manages all operations and events and activities. Our recruiting officer, Captain Bagwell, and our two NCOs who manage all of our personnel and administrative programs. All cadets are here for a purpose. In alignment with Air Force ROTC Higher Headquarters, all members go start the program as a General Military Force Cadet, or GMC, and work their first or second year, depending on their qualifications, working to become eligible to receive an enrollment allocation to attend the field training event, which is normally conducted at Maxwell Air Force Base for 17 to 19 days. After successful completion from field training, those juniors and senior cadets are then elevated to a higher level of trust as a professional officer course cadet, or POC, and they're in essence operating and supporting all Air Force ROTC events and activities with help and oversight from their full-time cadre. Commander's philosophies: in line with Air Force ROTC, our core values being integrity first, service before self, and excellence in all we do. Our commander also has a few focus areas, one being mission excellence, propelling the officer training pipeline, with also opportunities for professional development and recruiting and retaining officer candidates, while maintaining a culture of dignity and respect. One thing that our commander is very clear on, she has zero tolerance for sexual assault, harassment, discrimination, or drug use. And any of those violations will result in an immediate removal for the student. Commander expectations: what you can expect from her is for her to operate in the core values, but also caring for each team member and being big picture oriented. Trust and loyalty, as she will continue to serve faithfully in her role as the leader and commander, and making tough decisions when necessary, but also being consistent and fair. Now we'll take a moment just to cover mandatory briefings as we start the new semester. Throughout this mandatory briefing, we'll cover the following topics: DD Form 2983, which clearly outlines professional and unprofessional relationships. We'll briefly discuss suicide awareness and steps to take to prevent that, academic freedom and implications behind utilizing our resources, religious respect, sexual harassment and assault, zero tolerance on alcohol, drugs, and then training, maltreatment, and hazing, along with honor code and some resources for AFOQT. Simply put, the DD Form 2983 outlines what's deemed as professional and conversely unprofessional relationships. The parameters does not preclude from when you're not in school, meaning if you are working with an officer or enlisted member as a cadet, your role is to maintain professionalism at all times. And that is also a requirement for that individual member who is active duty, reserve, or National Guard. Biggest takeaway: perceptions can become reality. Suicide awareness. Everyone has the obligation and the opportunity to be a good wingman and guardian. That means watching out for warning signs, which could include, but are not limited to, drops in academic performance, changes in emotional or social patterns, statements which may directly or indirectly tie to death or just hopelessness, threats to self and others, and even in certain cases, alcohol or suspected drug use. When those warning signs are present, or a member or two feels that those are present, all of us must take the role of asking hard questions. An example of this would be if you're noticing one or more of these warning signs, asking, Cadet Snuffy, are you planning to harm yourself? Are you making plans to commit suicide? Although we hope that that answer is no, there may be times when a student does or a cadet does feel that way. In that event, there are resources at each of our college institutions and universities where those students and cadets can reach out to receive the help that's needed. Here are some resources here. Academic freedom is the free exchange of opinions and ideas essential to the educational process, and to the greatest extent possible, faculty, students, and staff are encouraged to speak and write freely. In accordance with AUI 36-2608, 2 articles within the Uniform Code of Military Justice, Articles 88 and 89, specifically prohibit Air Force ROTC members from disparaging or using contemptuous words against the President of the United States, POTUS, the Vice President of the United States, VPOTUS, Secretary of Defense, Secretary or Military Department, Congress member, or other members in levels of elevated positions of trust towards us or towards a superior commissioned officer. Bottom line, act as if you're in the Air Force, even though you are not. One other note with respect to academic integrity, please do not engage in plagiarism, cheating, or misrepresentation through oral or written statements. Religious freedom, which is a First Amendment right. The Department of the Air Force, DAFI 52-201, places strict guidance on all members understanding that the Air Force places a high value on the rights of airmen and guardians to observe the tenets of their respective religion or to observe no religion at all. Through this policy, the Department of the Air Force maintains an environment in which members can realize their highest potential. Sexual harassment. Department of Defense and the Department of Air Force has a zero tolerance policy, which simply means if a member is involved in unwelcome sexual advances, requests for favors, or other verbal or physical conduct of a sexual nature during employment or for basis of employment, that individual has created a hostile work environment or toxic work environment. If this unfortunately occurs, please notify cadre immediately. Do not engage in reprisal or retribution to the one reporting this incident. Sexual assault is a serious crime. Definition is listed, but the bottom line is that victim safety is our top priority. If there is a circumstance that arises which warrants this, please seek medical attention and notify cadre immediately. Biggest takeaway, there's no place in our military for sexual assault. Alcohol and drug use. If you're underage, it is strictly prohibited. However, we do have cadets that may be older and of age. Those members must also not abuse the state and federal law requirements. There's zero tolerance policy on any illicit drug use. Prescription drugs, and that constitutes prescription drugs use that don't have a prescription. Hemp derivatives and synthetic cannabinoids, example would be spice, or CBD oils and things of that nature are strictly prohibited. All cadets must be reminded that they're subject to random drug testing through the Cadet Drug Demand Reduction Program, and failure to comply could result in removal from the program. AETC, the Air Education Training Command, has some guidance related to maltraining, maltreatment, and cruelty. Any practice by an instructor, cadre member, or a CTA involving a trainee or cadet with no reasonable connection towards a course training objective or SOB, standard objective behavior, or recklessly or intentionally causes are likely in the unlawful harm physically, emotionally, or psychologically. It's what's constituted as maltraining and will not be tolerated. Maltreatment involves the cruelty, oppression, or maltreatment of a military subordinate by a military superior. Examples physically are poking, hitting, pushing, grabbing, physical violence, or intimidation. And verbal also involves degrading, belittling, demeaning, or maliciously embarrassing or slandering an individual or group. Hazing is defined and done for the purpose of initiating admission into or affiliation with. Maltraining, maltreatment, or hazing will not be tolerated. Suspicion of any of these must be reported immediately to the detachment commander or cadre. Honor code. We will not lie, steal, or cheat, nor tolerate amongst us anyone who does. Honor code violations include, but are not limited to, the following: lying, where statements of untruth meant to mislead or deceive, which also includes intentionally omitting facts. Stealing, self-explanatory. Cheating, which means taking unfair advantage of others by using former papers or other documents as your own work. If there is a reported of suspected honor code violations, all cadets are required and strongly encouraged to let an ROTC instructor or cadre know, or to utilize the commander's action box, which is located in our deck cadet lounge. Air Force Officer Qualification Test, or in other words, AFOQT. There are more guidance related to this. However, just know that this is a requirement for all cadets who are seeking to become an officer in the United States Air Force or Space Force to complete and successfully pass the AFOQT. Special recognition to the following cadets who contracted and became scholarship cadets. Great job and working hard to reach this pinnacle where your school will be covered. This concludes our mandatory briefing on all of our required topics for spring 2024 semester. If there are any questions, feel free to reach out to myself, Captain Faulk, or any of your Air Force ROTC cadre. Thank you.